My name's David. This is my tiny house that I built here. This is our garden and my wonderful neighbors. Been here for about 6 months. So far I've loved it. You know, we have a great community area to hang out in and we use it. We have a wonderful garden and, you know, every morning I'm out here picking kale for a smoothie or broccoli for a stir fry or something. So, I mean, we tried to make a little community in this backyard that we're in. And make it how we wanted it. You know, we wanted a place to hang out with friends. We wanted a place to garden and to kind of have our hobbies seen and to just really enjoy the beautiful land out here. And that's what we built ourselves. So it's great to have neighbors too as a tiny houser. You know, they're great neighbors. We spent a lot of time together building this. When we first moved in, it was actually a teepee pad. They had a giant teepee out here. And so we, you know, took boards from the deck and made our planters and took the bricks and, you know, made it a little home for us to stay in. So yeah, a lot of the plants that I have planted out here, the irises and a lot of the lilies, before the giant construction project that's happening right next to me happened, I just hopped over the fence, you know, late one rainy night, and I dug up a bunch of them. Look good here, and they'll come back next year and flower. And I just wanted to make sure that they're not going to destroy everything that was over there. And lo and behold, they just wiped it clean. Everything else around here is repurposed in some way. You know, these old flagstone things are from his yard, old clothesline using as my hanger for my plants. So my house is 20 foot by 8 foot by about 13.4 high. One afternoon when I was done with the class, I actually started just making a foam model of like, oh, this would be really cool to build tiny houses. This was my first design. This kind of popped into my head one night and I started making it in foam, and it actually turned out pretty much to the T what I designed. If you guys want to come in, take a look, I'd love to have you guys. So this is the inside of my house, my tiny house. This is my full bathroom, as I like to refer to it. We've got a full shower, composting, separating toilet, you know, place to put all my clothes. My mascot, Tiny Tim, I've had him since I started building the house. He loves it in here. Perfect pet to have in a tiny house. One of my favorite parts actually is this couch that I built. It's perfect. It's where I spend most of my time. It's where I do my homework. So actually my couch holds all of my solar equipment in here. So this is my solar cabinet, is what I call it. This whole wall is all the solar appliances that I need. I have an 800 watt solar on the roof, 8 100 watt panels. Got all my batteries under here too. It's just a great place to store everything. It's out of the way, it's vented. I don't need to worry about it. I'm not, you know, looking at a bunch of wires. And when I originally did it, I had a professional solar company come out and just make sure that everything was connected right and that it was going to work. And actually this supplied all of the energy needed to build all the interior of the house. So everything that I built was actually built, you know, my chop saw was running off this, skill saws, charging all my drills and everything. So it's a beast. And it's all nice and fancy and laid out. Satisfies my OCD. And then on this side I have a trunk. Actually, that's a trunk my dad built. He's a carpenter, and so I was able to incorporate something that he did in here. Got like snow gear in there and everything. The whole back behind here has storage as well. It's just a really versatile structure in the house, probably one of the most versatile structures. You know, and I love it. I think it's the perfect sized couch for my tiny house. All right, this is the other side of my tiny house. This is my kitchen. I was a professional chef, well, a professional cook for about 10 years before I started my schooling experience. So having a place to cook was really important. I'm also vegan, so I cook like 3 times a day for myself every day. And so when I was designing the kitchen, one of the main aspects that I needed was what I like to call a good triangle, which is between your stove, your sink, and your fridge. And so ultimately I don't have to move when I'm cooking. I can stand in one place and I have access to everything that's in the fridge. You know, I can wash it and then throw it right on the stove and cook it. This is one of my other favorite parts of my house. This is my Skell gas, 1960s stove. I actually got this up in Allen's Park out of a winter shack and had to completely tear it apart, re-insulate it, and make it propane plumbed, and I love it. The thing's a beast. It cooks really fast. Everything in here, again, has a purpose. There's actually a 55-gallon water tank in this dead space back here that actually fits it to the T perfectly, so there's no wasted space in there. And if I want to go off grid, I can. And all of these drawers are, they go all the way back and they're full of stuff. But yeah, this is my tiny kitchen, and I love it. So the height of my loft is 4 foot on this side, just about, and 2 foot on that side. That doesn't include the mattress, so I lose a little bit with that. But even though it's a pretty small loft as lofts go, I don't really feel claustrophobic at all because there's so much natural light that's coming in. I've got this beautiful bank of 4 windows here and a skylight right over where I sleep. So it actually feels really cozy, and I get to feel like I'm actually camping outside because there's so much air movement and so much light and starlight coming in. It's really awesome. I'm able to store my skis back there, get them tucked away. That was actually one thing I didn't think I was going to be able to store in the house, but lo and behold, a little 4 inches, and I made use of it. Again, I have a really cool light up here. It's like one of those little touch lights, and that's like a little quirky thing that I like about the house because it's the perfect reading light, and it tucks away on the wall, and there's no light switch, which actually when you're designing loft lights, I think it's really hard to put the switch because you don't know where to turn it off or on from, and that one is just on the light, so it just alleviates that problem for me. So I've been in this spot in North Boulder for just about 6 months, and my landlord just got a letter from the city, basically a notice of eviction for both myself and my RV neighbors. So here in North Boulder, the lot of land that I'm on is like a 1 acre kind of lot tucked away in a residential area of North Boulder. Originally we had woods on all one side, a community bike path on the other, another 1 acre lot that was, has a really nice house on it on the other side. And so what we think what happened of kind of getting evicted is a couple months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, they came in and just tore down the forest that I was backing up to, and they're putting in another road and housing developments over there. And so, who knows exactly what happened, but most likely either a code enforcer was out here or the development themselves didn't want a tiny house backing up next to them, and we think that's what ultimately led to the eviction. Because, as good neighbors, we went around to everyone that's around us and made sure that it's okay to have, different living structures here in the backyard. And so everyone that was in the immediate vicinity was okay with us. And, we've had neighbors come over with their kids and pick from the garden, and, we've had festivals at other neighbors' house, and everything was okay and everyone was okay with it. So it wasn't until the construction started and, really got underway that we started to get worried, and then eventually got the ultimate eviction notice. But when I was planning my tiny house, I was planning to be a CU student here in Boulder, Colorado, but we don't really have suitable housing for students here. It's really expensive and there's not a lot of it. CU doesn't offer housing for all 4 years. They only offer for freshmen, international students, and it's really hard to get housing there before it all fills up, and if you can afford it in the first place. So my goal with building the tiny house was to have somewhere to live affordably while I went to school, pay minimal rent, live sustainably, and be able to kind of get my education at the same time. a lot of times at CU, just because it's hard to get housing, a lot of students are forced onto what we call the Hill, which is, some people love the Hill. It's a huge party central here at CU, but the Hill is essentially a bunch of rundown small-scale ranches and small-scale houses that are just chock full of students. When my sister went here, 3 or 4 years ago, she was in a house of about 7 other girls. Some of them had their boyfriends with them too. In a connected duplex in one small house, and they're each paying an outrageous amount of rent. But that's what they had to do because that was the only housing that was available. To kind of live here is just too hard. There's too many people and not enough housing. And that's not just a problem with CU, it's also a problem with Boulder as a whole. It's just growing at an exponential rate, and the housing here just can't keep up. So my bright idea was to make a tiny house, but apparently the city doesn't want that as a housing solution either. So about a week ago, we got the eviction notice. They gave us 30 days to evict or to stop housekeeping, as the notice says. But as of right now, there's no other lots available that I can find in the vicinity of CU. And, so ultimately I had to make the decision to either keep looking or put my house up for sale or, go live with a parent. So it's an unfortunate situation because I'd rather just keep my dream alive and keep living and going to school how I wanted to. But now, I really have nowhere to go. If I were to speak to, city council people and to speak to the city, I would emphasize the point that we are still part of the community. I go grocery shopping at the local Safeway, I go to all the local cafes, my money is still put into this community, and I, so far, am not feeling a part of the community, that they think that I'm a part of the community in return. I'm a CU student, I think that I follow and fall into what Boulder makes itself to be, sustainably, efficient, all that kind of stuff. But yet in the reality, it doesn't feel like that. So, we're people too, I'm a person, I have my dreams, I have morals, and it doesn't feel like I'm accepted and it doesn't feel like I'm heard. It just feels like, black and white, there's no ability, there's no flexibility within there to make living sustainable and living a minimalist lifestyle a part of what Boulder could be. I'm sure there's many people in the community that would agree with me and say that, that is who they want to be and who they think they are, but that's not necessarily what I feel like is happening.
Hey guys, Alexis and Christian here with Tiny House Expedition.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And click left or right for more tiny house stories and tours.